Imagine a conflict so vast that it didn't just move borders, it fundamentally rewired how every human being on Earth lives, speaks, and governs. We're talking about a war where 60 million people died, and for the first and only time, nuclear weapons leveled entire cities.
60 million? That's not just a statistic. That's like wiping out the entire population of Italy or the UK in just 6 years. How does a world even let it get to that point?
It's the ultimate cautionary tale. Today, we're breaking down World War II, not just as a series of dates, but as a global collapse that gave birth to the world we inhabit today. To understand why the world exploded in 1939, you have to look back at 1918. World War I ended with the Treaty of Versailles, which left Germany humiliated and economically broken. This created a vacuum that a charismatic, hateful orator named Adolf Hitler filled with promises of national rebirth and racial purity.
So it was basically a 20-year grudge match, but Germany wasn't acting alone. You had Japan and Italy moving at the same time. Was there a master plan between them?
Not exactly a shared blueprint, but shared ideologies of fascism and militarism. Japan felt snubbed by Western powers and invaded Manchuria in 1931 to grab resources. Italy, under Mussolini, wanted a new Roman Empire. By the time Hitler started reclaiming territory in Europe, the international community was paralyzed by the memory of the last war, choosing appeasement over confrontation.
They just watched while Hitler took Austria and Czechoslovakia? That feels like trying to stop a fire by giving it more wood.
Exactly. The final straw came on September 1st, 1939, when Germany invaded Poland. Hitler had signed a secret non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union's Joseph Stalin to split Poland between them. Britain and France realized they couldn't ignore the fire anymore and declared war. The first phase was the Blitzkrieg, lightning war. Germany used tanks and aircraft in a way the world had never seen, bypassing heavy fortifications to knock France out of the war in just weeks. By mid-1940, Britain stood alone, enduring a relentless aerial bombardment known as the Blitz.
If Britain was alone, how did this turn into a world war? It sounds like a European border dispute that got out of hand.
Two massive turning points changed everything in 1941. First, Hitler betrayed Stalin and invaded the Soviet Union, opening the Eastern Front, the bloodiest theater in human history. Then, on December 7th, Japan attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Suddenly, the two largest industrial powers on Earth, the US and the USSR, were fully committed to crushing the Axis.
So now you have three major fronts, the Pacific, the Eastern Front in Russia, and the Western Front in Europe. Who actually breaks first?
The tide turned in 1943. The Soviets annihilated the German Sixth Army at Stalingrad, which remains one of the largest battles ever fought. Simultaneously, the US stopped the Japanese advance at the Battle of Midway in the Pacific. From there, it was a slow, brutal squeeze. The Allies invaded Italy, then stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day in 1944.
I've heard about D-Day, but we can't talk about this war without addressing the horror behind the lines. What was happening to the people in occupied territories?
That's the darkest part of the story. The Nazis implemented the Holocaust, a systematic, industrial genocide that murdered 6 million Jews and millions of others. It wasn't just collateral damage from fighting. It was a state-sponsored program of extermination. This war proved that modern technology could be used for ultimate evil just as easily as for liberation.
It's hard to wrap your head around that. How did it finally end? Did it just fizzle out when they ran out of soldiers?
It ended with total collapse. Soviet troops stormed Berlin in May 1945, and Hitler took his own life in an underground bunker. Germany surrendered unconditionally. But in the Pacific, Japan fought on. To avoid a ground invasion that could have cost millions more lives, the US dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August. Japan surrendered weeks later. The aftermath changed the map forever. Germany and Japan were occupied and rebuilt from the ground up. The leading figures of their regimes were put on trial for crimes against humanity, a legal concept that didn't even exist before the war.
And the world decided to never let this happen again, right? That's where the UN comes from?
Precisely. The United Nations was formed to replace the failed League of Nations. But the war also killed off the era of European empires. Britain and France were so broke they couldn't hold on to their colonies, leading to a wave of independence across Africa and Asia. Most importantly, it left two giants standing: the United States and the Soviet Union.
So World War II essentially built the stage for the Cold War that dominated the rest of the 20th century.
It did more than that. It gave us radar, jet engines, penicillin, and the nuclear age. It forced women into the workforce, sparking social revolutions. We live in the house that World War II built, for better and for worse.
It's a lot to take in. If you had to boil down the one thing we should remember about the Second World War, what is it?
It is the ultimate proof that an interconnected world cannot ignore local aggression, because eventually, everyone pays the price.
That's Wikipodia. Every story on demand. Search your next topic at wikipedia.ai.